The house was quiet until something started walking slowly down the hallway. The house was quiet until something started walking slowly down the hallway. Not the kind of quiet that hums with life. No refrigerator buzz. No ticking clock. Just a thick, padded silence, like the air had been wrapped in felt. The lights were off. I had gone to bed without turning them on, guiding myself by memory, by the pale spill of moonlight leaking through the blinds. I lay on my side, half asleep, listening to my own breathing. Too loud. I tried to slow it. The hallway sat just outside my bedroom door. I couldn't see it from where I lay, but I could picture it perfectly. Narrow, with floors worn pale in the center, family photos along the walls, the far end dissolving into darkness where the bathroom and guest room waited. I told myself the sound was nothing. A pop from the house settling. Pipes, old wood complaining. Then it came again. A step, not a creak too deliberate. A soft, patient pressure, as though someone had carefully placed their weight down, testing the floor before committing. I held my breath. Another step followed. Farther away, down the hallway. My skin prickled, gooseflesh rising along my arms. The air felt colder, as if the house had exhaled. I glanced at the clock on my nightstand. The red digits glowed weakly. 2:41 a.m. I didn't remember waking up. I didn't remember falling asleep either. The space between those moments felt smeared, like a tape that had been recorded over too many times. The steps continued. Slow. Even. Each one separated by just enough time for me to hope it wouldn't come again. The hallway felt longer in my mind than it ever had during the day. I imagined it stretching, boards multiplying, shadows deepening. I had the unsettling sense that it was aware of me, that the darkness beyond my door was leaning closer, listening. I pulled the blanket up to my chin. The fabric was cold. Too cold. Another step. Closer now. The floorboard beneath the first framed photo, the one of my parents on the porch, gave a faint groan. I knew that sound. I'd stepped there 1,000 times. Someone else was stepping there now. My thoughts skittered uselessly. Maybe I'd left a window open. Maybe the house was shifting. Maybe. Another step cut me off. The shadow under my bedroom door shifted, thinning, then thickening again, as though something had passed in front of it. My mouth went dry. I tried to move, to sit up, but my body resisted with a heavy reluctance. Sleep paralysis, a distant part of me suggested. You're dreaming. This is what it feels like. But dreams were fuzzy. This was sharp. I noticed details I shouldn't have. The faint smell of dust and old wood, the way the air pressed against my ears, the subtle vibration of the floor traveling through the mattress. Step. Closer still. The temperature dropped another degree. I could see my breath if I focused, a faint fog dissolving into the dark. A memory surfaced uninvited. Standing in this same bedroom as a child, listening to my parents move through the house at night, comforted by the sounds. Footsteps meant safety then. Proof I wasn't alone. The memory felt wrong. Incomplete. Had this house always sounded like this? The steps stopped. Silence flooded back in, deeper than before. My heart hammered so hard it felt like it might shake the room apart. I waited. Seconds stretched. My thoughts looped. Had I imagined it? Was I still asleep? I squeezed my eyes shut, then forced them open. The shadow beneath the door was darker now. Thicker. As if someone or something was standing just outside. A faint creak came from the hallway wall, like a joint flexing. The house seemed to settle around the presence, accommodating it. Then the walking resumed. One step, right outside my door. The floorboard there didn't creak. It never had. Whoever stood there knew where to place their weight. I tasted metal. Fear sharpened until it felt clean, almost clarifying. I became aware of how narrow my room felt, how far the window was, how flimsy the lock on the door suddenly seemed. I realized, distantly, that I hadn't locked it. Had I ever locked it? The thought spiraled. I couldn't remember doing it. I couldn't remember not doing it. My memories felt rearranged, shuffled like cards. The doorknob did not turn. Instead, there was another step, Inside the room, the mattress dipped slightly at the foot of the bed. I made a sound then, a small broken noise I didn't recognize as my own. My legs tingled, pins and needles shooting through them as feeling rushed back all at once. I could move. I twisted, scrambling backward, my spine hitting the headboard. My eyes locked on the darkness at the foot of the bed. There was nothing there. No shape, no figure. Just the room exactly as it had always been. The pressure on the mattress remained. The weight shifted, slow and careful, as if something were leaning in to observe me more closely. The house creaked softly, almost approvingly. A wave of déjà vu crashed over me so hard it stole my breath. I had been here before, not just in dreams, not just in childhood fears. I remembered sitting up like this, remembered the cold, remembered the waiting. I remembered not screaming, because last time I'd learned screaming made it linger. The realization hollowed me out. The footsteps weren't new. They were routine. The house wasn't reacting to an intruder. It was hosting something it knew intimately, something it had made space for, something it had been walking toward me for years. The weight on the mattress eased, then settled again, closer now at my knees. The hallway, I understood, hadn't been leading to my room. It had been leading back to it. The house sighed, a long, satisfied sound that rippled through the walls. And somewhere deep in the structure, beneath the floors, behind the plaster, I felt it remember me. She heard the front door unlock, even though she lived alone. She heard the front door unlock, even though she lived alone. The sound slipped into the room like a thought she hadn't meant to have, soft, precise, unmistakable. Metal turning, faint click, the deadbolt releasing with careful patience. She lay frozen on the couch, blanket pulled up to her chin. The television paused mid-scene. The screen cast a dim, bluish glow across the living room, just enough light to make shadows stretch too long and corners look deeper than they should. She hadn't fallen asleep. She was sure of that. The apartment was quiet in the way late-night spaces get when the world feels temporarily abandoned. No traffic, no neighbors, just the low hum of the refrigerator and the distant tick of the wall clock, each second landing like a dropped pin. Her heart began to race. She listened. Nothing followed the unlock. No door opening. No footsteps. Just silence, thick and watchful. Her first thought was that she'd imagined it. A hypnagogic hallucination. Her therapist had mentioned those once. Sounds that feel real when you're half awake. But her body didn't believe that explanation. Her skin prickled, heat draining from her arms and legs. The air felt colder, as if the apartment had inhaled. She stared at the front door from across the room. It was still closed. The chain wasn't on. She knew she never used it. The deadbolt, though, she always locked the deadbolt. She pictured herself doing it earlier that night, turning the key, testing the handle once, twice. Didn't she? The memory wavered when she reached for it, like an image reflected in disturbed water. She could see herself coming home, kicking off her shoes, tossing her bag on the chair. But the moment with the lock felt smudged, incomplete. A shadow shifted along the hallway wall. She flinched, pulse thundering in her ears. The shadow was subtle, barely there, stretching a little farther than it should have, as if the light from the TV lagged behind whatever cast it. She held her breath. The clock ticked. The refrigerator hummed. Then, so quiet she almost missed it, the door handle turned. Not fast, not tentative, controlled. The sound of metal moving against metal sent a sharp jolt through her chest. She pressed her hand over her mouth to keep from gasping. The handle returned to its resting position. The door did not open. It was as if whoever was on the other side was listening, waiting. Her mind scrambled for logic. A neighbor at the wrong apartment, a maintenance mistake, a burglar who would have kicked the door in already if they meant harm. But none of those explanations matched the way the lock had turned. The ease of it, the certainty. Whoever had unlocked the door hadn't hesitated. They knew exactly how much pressure to apply. The temperature dropped another notch. She could feel it in her lungs, the way each breath seemed thinner, sharper. She slowly reached for her phone on the coffee table. The movement felt enormous, loud, even though she barely shifted. Her fingers trembled as she lifted it. The screen stayed dark. She pressed the power button. Nothing. A chill crept up her spine. She was sure she'd charged it earlier. She remembered plugging it in by the couch. Had she? The memory slipped sideways as soon as she tried to pin it down. A faint sound came from the entryway. Not footsteps, something subtler. Fabric brushing against the wall. A careful adjustment of weight. Inside the apartment, her vision tunneled. The front door was still closed, but the air near it seemed wrong, heavier, as if space itself had been rearranged. She noticed details that made no sense. The way the shadow beneath the door was thicker than the gap should allow. The way the smell of the apartment had changed. Less detergent. More dust. Something old. She squeezed her eyes shut. When she opened them, the shadow was longer. It stretched down the hallway, thin and reaching, like a finger pointing toward her. She didn't remember sitting up, but suddenly she was. The blanket pooled at her waist. Her muscles ached as if she'd been tense for a long time already. Another memory surfaced, unwelcome, vivid. Standing in this same living room weeks ago. Or months. She couldn't be sure. Hearing something in the night. Going to check the door. Finding it unlocked. Laughing it off. Telling herself she must have forgotten. Her heart pounded harder. She had forgotten before. The clock ticked louder now. Each second seemed to drag, stretching the moment thin. The hallway mirror caught the TV's glow, reflecting the living room at an odd angle. She glanced at it despite herself. Her reflection was there, pale, eyes wide. Something behind her was not. She spun around. Nothing. Just the couch, the darkened kitchen, the familiar shapes of her life arranged exactly where they should be. When she looked back at the mirror, the reflection had caught up. Perfectly synchronized now. Too perfectly. A soft click sounded from the door. Not the lock this time. The sound of the door easing open, just a fraction. Enough to let in a draft of colder air, smelling faintly of rain and something else she couldn't name. She didn't scream. The fear was too dense for sound. The door didn't open any further. Instead, a voice spoke from the entryway. It didn't say her name. It said, "You always freeze like this." The voice was low, familiar in a way that made her stomach twist. Not male. Not female. Not quite a voice at all. More like a memory speaking aloud. Her mind reeled. She shook her head, hard, as if that could dislodge the moment. "I live alone," she whispered, though she wasn't sure who she was trying to convince. A soft sound answered her. A breath, close enough that it stirred the hair at the nape of her neck. "You didn't," the voice said gently. "Not really." The lights flickered. For a split second, the living room was fully illuminated, and she saw it. The faint impressions in the carpet, worn deeper along a path that led from the front door to the couch. The indentation beside her, subtle but undeniable, like a place someone sat often. The lights snapped off again. She felt the couch shift. The weight settled beside her with practiced familiarity. A hand brushed her wrist, ice cold. "You keep forgetting," the voice murmured. "That's why you keep locking the door." Her breath came in short, broken gasps. Her thoughts spiraled, fragments of nights blending together. Sounds she'd dismissed, doors she'd found unlocked, shadows she'd learned to ignore. The presence leaned closer. "I don't," it said almost fondly. "I never do." The television screen went black. In the darkness, the front door clicked shut on its own. And somewhere deep in the apartment, something settled back into place, content to wait until she forgot again.